Hello and welcome to Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. We take your questions that you send to us via email. Father Gruner answers them, we discuss them, and we make one of these programs every day. Please send us your questions. The email is on the screen there, I hope. questions@thefatimacenter.com. In the last program, Father, as you know, we were talking about the question of why women should cover their head in church, and also why men should not cover their head in church. And you had started by going back to the Garden of Eden and Adam, but we didn't really develop that. Do you want to talk about that a little more?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's, it's, I think it was Chesterton who said that if somebody denies original sin, he's living on another planet. He didn't use that expression, but obviously, as St. Paul speaks of himself, I know I want to do something, and I should do something, and I want to do it, but I don't do it. Poor me, because I'm suffering from the original sin, our own sin. So everyone has that experience. I know I shouldn't eat that other piece of good steak because I've had enough already, but it's so good I'm going to have another piece. So, but it's irrational, and we know it's irrational, but we still do it. Mm-hmm. But why do we? But whether it's eating, whether it's drinking, whether it's something else, we do things we know we shouldn't do, which we are. Not in part because they're obeying God, disobeying God, but even because it's bad for me personally. But I still do it because that's the result of sin. Those weaknesses are put there because of sin. And so, and people today even don't deny that original sin exists or that actual sin exists, but they live it all the time and they recognize it. You have these self-help books which tell you in business and all the rest of it, and you've got to overcome it, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But so it's a fact of life. Everyone knows it, but they sometimes deny that it's because of sin. Having said that, God said in the Garden of Eden, because after original sin, which is passed on to us, but that there are punishments for that, and one of the punishments is that the wife must be subject to the husband. I suppose one of the greatest. In some ways, I've noticed that I'm getting observant in my old age, but that it's I suppose it's quite a punishment in the sense that they want to do their own thing. Everyone wants to do their own thing, and maybe it becomes even more. The difference is that I think that men are forced to think through consequences more, and because of the gifts they've been given. Not all women are less intelligent than men, but men generally are more intelligent as a general rule, and they see without even wanting to see. They see some of the consequences. Therefore, they say, no, we can't do that. Whereas women are much more intuitive, much more sensitive to feelings and so forth, and it's a great gift also. Not to despise that, but sometimes they don't see what their husband sees. So God has made it as a punishment for original sin for a woman to have to obey their husband. Now, it's not saying they have to say, don't put salt in the whatever they do. I mean, in something important I'm talking about.
Yes, well, I mean, I think too, one of the problems with understanding that is people tend to misunderstand it. They interpret it as that the man is, the father is king of the family and the woman is the slave.
Yeah.
That's how it's interpreted. That's how the feminists talk about it.
Yeah.
This is patriarchy, this is evil. No, what it is man is the king and his wife is the queen.
Yes.
She's not a slave.
No,
she's the queen. And she is to be treated like a queen.
Yes.
And the father treats the king, treats the wife as a queen. And he makes sure that the children treat mom as a queen. Yes. This is the proper order, and it's just the order of God putting man as head of the family. And and it's interesting because I saw a kind of a modern priest, but there were hoots and hollers coming from a Catholic audience because he said that the main fault of husbands and wives are somewhat related to the fall of Adam and Eve, because a major sin of many husbands and fathers is to want to run away from responsibility.
Yes, yes.
And the major sin of many women is to want to dominate the men.
Yes.
So both are doing the opposite
yes.
of what they're supposed to do. I mean, we have
actually, if a man obviously loves his wife, he's not going to treat her as a slave.
No.
And he's commanded to love his wife as Christ loves the church. So it obviously has to be taken in context. But this whole idea is that a woman putting her hat on her head in church is showing her acknowledgement that she is subject to the husband or subject to the head of the church, first of all, by this act of obedience. But it's not meant to be domination or demeaning or anything like that.
That's how it's sold. In fact, I just saw an article in a very liberal Catholic newspaper by a woman, a theologianette, who was she was writing about the fact that more and more young women want to go, when they go to church, they want to wear a veil. Yes. They want to wear a hat cover. They want a pretty hat. Yeah. They want all these things. And you could just hear the hissing coming off the page that she was so outraged. And she said, these women don't know that this business of wearing a veil in church is a thinly veiled patriarchy.
Yeah, well,
so you're the slave. The man is the taskmaster, and you're submitting yourself to this. They've twisted the whole thing away from God's design, and they are trapped in this trendy, destructive feminism that conceptually destroys everything it sees.
Well, but when you go back to the message of Fatima, Our Lady says that Russia will spread her errors. Of course, the errors of Russia, as the popes have pointed out, are not really Russian only. They're the errors of Marx and Lenin, and you have Marx as a German living in England, and but obviously, but they made their headquarters Russia. So, not to say that the only error of Russia is communism, but certainly it is one. It still exists. It still goes on. And one of the things that Russia's errors, communism more precisely, is in fact to promote feminism as a way of destroying Christianity.
It destroys the family.
Yeah, it destroys the family.
And it gets. So anyway, but we're out of time on this, and so the women, it's the custom and the rule of the church to wear a veil in church, and for men to not wear a hat.
Yes.
I don't see any men saying, I want to wear a hat.
I mean, occasionally it's useful to wear a hat. But,
sometimes in certain ceremonies the bishop has that, but when we're in church, we should be dressed, similar to the way I am now, with a tie and good shoes and everything.
And without a hat in church.
Without a hat in church.
For the men.
Take it off when you come out.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for this program, and we will see you next time.